What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to Movie Emporium's movie review of the new Netflix original movie, Army of Thieves. This film is directed by Matthias, Schweighöfer. Now, before we begin, if you like this channel, awesome, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium, hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of these videos, awesome, hit that like button, as well as commenting below any video that you watch, including this one. So Army of Thieves is, of course, the prequel to Army of the Dead, directed by Zack Snyder, which came out earlier this year on Netflix. This, of course, is the prequel about the character Dieter, who is once again played by Matthias Schweighöfer, who actually directs this film. And basically, this story is his back history, his kind of how he became the safecracker that would end up working for David Batista's crew. And what this movie does is it gives us a story that is very well worn, to be fairly honest, but it gives us a story about how Dieter was hired by this character named Gwendolyn, who's played by Nathalie Emmanuel, and how he got involved with not only this like stereotypical crew that involves like the tough guy and the driver and the one that does all the technical work and stuff like that, but it's also a story about how this individual who's very much in love with this guy named Hans Wagner, who was this guy who built these very intricate safes, how they are going to break into these three safes, which is called the circle or the ring of Hans Wagner. And in essence, it's his story about how he did that, how he eventually got to the point he did in Army of the Dead. And so with that said, this movie is really interesting in its own nature for the simple fact, and I say interesting a lot, so go with me on this, for the simple fact that this film is literally coming out, I want to say 6 months after the original film came out, which is never really a thing that happens. Usually they'll wait a year or wait a couple years before they put out a new film in the same, franchise and so on and so forth. I know Army of the Dead was very successful, so it makes sense to do this, but it's really interesting that it focuses on Dieter, who is a tertiary character in Army of the Dead. Unfortunately, we find out what happens to him. But to focus on this particular character and to have the main actor who plays the character direct it doesn't really happen that often. So going into a film like this, it's a wonderment of, are they worried about this film performing? Do they think this film is something that could, propel the Army of the Dead franchise into a new kind of stratosphere? It was a really interesting thing to see when they put out the trailer now that they're releasing some film around Halloween. And so I went into this movie not really enjoying Army of the Dead. I thought it was long. I thought it was very boring, and just a lot of stuff happens in that movie just doesn't make any sense. Robot zombies and stuff like that. And with that said, focusing on a character that I just didn't really even care about, I'll go in with some apprehension. But it's thankfully kind of a relief after watching this movie that not only say that it's way better than Army of the Dead, but it's a fun heist film. It's well directed, it's well shot. Yes, there are stereotypical characters with goofy names like Brad Cage and Rodolfo or something like that, and then there's Delacroix, who plays the Interpol agent and stuff like that. But it really gives us a character in Dieter who is not only kind of a lighthearted, fun, silly character, but he has a lot of heart. His love and passion for safes and Hans Wagner and stuff like that, it's like, my love for movies. There's just something kind of inspiring and cool and fun about it. And I had just a lot of fun with this film. I've seen it many times before in probably better situations. There are some moments where they go a little over the top and a little silly with what they're trying to explain. There's points in this where they actually do the Army of the Dead stuff where it shows the name of the character and like the really bright fluorescence and stuff like that, which I don't really care about. I kind of hate that stuff. And then you can tell Zack Snyder has some influence on this because he directed the original film. But it was really strange watching this movie, even though it's a little long, and just kind of just going with it, just enjoying it, just watching a film where I feel like I actually kind of cared about these characters. They made Dieter a more complex, more fulfilled character. Like he has a lot of dimension to him now, and there's just something endearing about his character in general. And maybe that played out to some people in the original film, but I feel like the fact that they focused on this character and even had the guy direct the film really shows the strength of not only this character, the actor Matthias's passion for this character, but just how much of a depth he has as a director. Which, like I said, I've never heard of Matthias Schweighöfer before these two films, but I know Nathalie Emmanuel, who's a pretty decent actor. But on top of that, like, the safes are really intricate looking and really cool, and there's some story behind it, and there's story about Hans Wagner and stuff like that. He uses a lot of like I can't remember if it's Beethoven or who the songs that he plays with, but they're they're very much in line with, the character and stuff like that. It's just, when you sit down and watch this movie and you watch it for like the 130 minutes that's on screen, you really get a sense that there's some love and passion behind this movie that didn't really feel connected with the original film. And that's a very strange thing to say, because when you're watching a prequel and you know exactly what's going to happen to Dieter later on, you know how the story's going to play out, you still feel like that there's going to be a future for this character and a future for this story that unfortunately will never play out. But I just really kind of was on board with that, even though I know where the character's heading. The movie just played in a very fun, entertaining, somewhat silly, but somewhat, cool kind of aesthetic. And, it looks nice, it's pretty. It, takes place in other countries like Germany and Prague and stuff like that. And so, therefore, I really was having a lot of fun with it. How Dieter's character interacts with YouTube and stuff like that, how he interacts with the safes. We see the safes from the inside, almost like a beating heart in a lot of ways. And in the end, I just found that kind of fun, entertaining. It's not the best film I've ever seen, but it's definitely not Army of the Dead. It's definitely not something I really was just kind of sapped of my soul from watching. But just overall, I think this is definitely an improvement. I think it would be cool if there was other stories with Dieter, but I think that will never happen. So it's cool to see kind of a one-off at this point. But with that said, we may see like Gwendolyn, we may see the other characters in other movies, so we'll see what happens with that. And yeah, that'll do it. That'll be my take on this film, Army of Thieves. Thank you so much for watching. Comments below, what do you think of Army of the Dead? Are you excited for Army of the Thieves? All that good stuff. But if you like what you see on this channel, of course, hit the subscribe button to join Movie Emporium. Hit that notification bell at the top to find what's coming next. If you like any of the videos, awesome. Hit that like button. And as always, we'll see you guys on the next video. Peace out.